We have gone through all of the different expressed powers that are written in the Constitution. And as I went through them, I went through them in the order in which they show up in the Constitution. It's kind of all over the place. So I'd talk about coining money, I'd talk about piracy, then I'd get to a navy and all this kind of stuff. So, one of the things we need to make sure we can do to keep this stuff straight in our heads is we can sort these into different categories here. So, that's what we're going to do. Last today, we're going to look at different ways to categorize Congress's expressed powers. So I'd mentioned a long time ago that the national government's powers are mostly going to fall into two categories: economic powers and foreign powers. That is exactly how this is going to go today. So first, let's look at the economic powers of Congress. None of these are new. These are all the express powers we were just talking about. But everything that might deal with the economy here left up to Congress. They levy taxes. So they decide, the taxing situation in the United States. That also meant they could spend money. We said that Congress could borrow money. So borrow from other countries, borrow from people in order to fund the government. Congress can coin money. It's up to Congress to decide the money, like what actual money, like what are the coins and bills, but also how much money exists and all that. Congress regulates commerce of different kinds: foreign commerce with different countries, commerce between the states, any interstate commerce. Remember, it had also mentioned commerce with the Native American tribes, and it was up to Congress to make bankruptcy laws. So, in all of these fit into the realm of economic powers. We don't want the states dealing with their economies on their own. First of all, they did a terrible job of it with the Articles of Confederation. But second of all, we don't want the states competing with each other. We want the states working together. So the national government helps coordinate things this way. Congress also has a whole lot of foreign policy powers. We do not want the states to do these things. These are things that we don't want the states to decide for themselves. So the foreign policy powers of Congress here, these are pretty easy. Congress declares war. Congress raises the army, raises the navy. They regulate that army and navy, right? They make the rules about how it operates. Up to Congress, my favorite one. Congress has to fight the pirates. Foreign trade we could fit in here too, even though foreign trade's an economic power too. It's also a foreign power. So Congress has the ability to regulate foreign trade. And naturalization, the process by which people would become citizens of the United States. So that's dealing with foreign people coming to the country and ultimately becoming United States citizens. So these are all foreign policy powers of Congress. All right, now we have a few more foreign policy powers that are snuck into Article 2. Article 2, you're constitutional experts. Article 2 deals with the powers of the president, but these are checks that Congress has on the president, and these are the ones that specifically deal with foreign policy. So, first, it's up to Congress to approve treaties. If the president negotiates a treaty with another country, it is up to Congress to ratify that treaty. They have to vote on that and agree by 2/3 that that's a treaty that the United States will enter into. The president picks all ambassadors. He picks an ambassador to every other country in the world, but each of them has to be approved by Congress as well. So the Senate gets to approve who those people are. The president's main person in charge of foreign policy is the Secretary of State, and this person has a ton of influence over different powers and different negotiations, and just has a lot of influence over what United States foreign policy is. But that person has to be approved by the Senate as well. And of course, Congress can control the budget. We said that Congress was responsible for spending. So the president can, he might have ideas about what he wants to do around the world, but Congress may refuse to spend money on those projects or those priorities. All right. And then this last group, this is not really a group. This is just the other stuff here. So all this stuff kind of fits in together. First, there's eminent domain. Now, this is a power of Congress that we didn't mention. It's not in Article 1, Section 8, but Congress does have the power to seize seize private property and convert it into public use. So eminent domain is a power of Congress. Post office and roads, those are a random power of Congress. The system of weights and measurements, setting up the system of copyrights and patents, supporting the arts and the sciences, monitoring and regulating Washington, D.C. All of these things, just kind of a random grab bag of different powers that are in the Constitution for Congress to use. All right. So that's what we're gonna that's it for today. We have gone through all of the different powers that are in the Constitution for Congress. So these are the expressed powers of Congress, and we're gonna use these as we go forward and focus more on the lawmaking of Congress. But the main things I need you to be able to do today, I need to make sure that we all have a good understanding of the Commerce Clause, that we know how the Commerce Clause has been interpreted to give Congress more power. So this has led to increased powers for Congress. Need to make sure that you guys are able to describe all of the express powers of Congress in Article 1. Need to make sure that you guys can explain the necessary and proper clause or the elastic clause, and make sure that you can explain how that expands each one of Congress's express powers. So for every express power, we should be able to look at it. We should be able to think about what other powers that suggest that Congress has. And as we group these things, I needed you to make sure that you'd be able to describe economic powers of Congress and make sure that you'd be able to describe foreign policy powers of Congress. So that's it for the powers of Congress. We are going to shift our focus into how Congress uses these powers. So the lawmaking process over the next couple days, but so important that we are able to remember these, that we're able to remember what things the Constitution tells Congress it can do, and that way we'll be able to explain what Congress is doing. Especially later, we'll be able to explain how Congress interacts with the other branches.